Hey fellow woodcutters, Tablesaw here. Today's video I'm going to go over identifying some of the stationary power tools in a high school wood shop, or pretty common in most shops. So I'm going to just go through what they are, kind of what they do. There are handheld power tools like drills and stuff, but this is stationary power tools. We'll start out with all the sanders. This is a 12-inch disc sander. It spins this way. This is a tabletop that's set perpendicular to it. So disc sander. Over here, we have a 9-inch disc sander coupled with a belt sander. I think this is a 6-inch wide belt sander. It travels this way. There's a tabletop. When that turns on, this turns on at the same time. So this is a disc sander and a belt sander. This right here is a wide belt sander. This is the feed right here. So this affects the feed rate, how quickly it takes the material. Then this red button turns on this right here. And there's the sandpaper. So that spins around. Your wood goes in there and it gives you a flatter surface. So that's a wide belt sander. This is an open-ended one, 16 inches wide. But you could do a 32-inch wide board and run half of it through and half will stick out. It's an oscillating spindle sander, travels up and down. So it travels up and down so you don't burn the wood. That's the oscillating part. And it has different size drums or spindles you could put in. That throat plate changes out as well. So this comes out and it goes according to the diameter of the spindle. This is for sanding concave surfaces. And then you want to match the diameter of that spindle to whatever you're sanding. Then over here is a belt sander. This is a bigger belt sander with a larger table. This is a stop. And it works really just like a belt sander. The other stationary belt sander, just a little bit larger. Ideally, if the grain pattern's going this way, then the sand goes in between the grains so you don't get a lot of cross grain scratches. This is a downdraft table, not a stationary power tool, but then the orbital sanders and their grits are over here. So this is more for a finished sand. From sanding, we'll go to surfacing tools. This is a planer. It gives you a flat plane on any board. So this is a planer. It's a really large one, 25-inch capacity, beautiful planer. This tool right here is called a jointer. Works similarly to a planer, but it's usually used to give you a straight edge on the side. There are the knives right there and the guard over them. Take off maximum about a 1/16 of an inch of wood on this jointer. After you're joining one edge of the board, you usually go with the table saw. That's this tool here, and you rip the other edge parallel. This is the fence. There's a saw blade. These are saw stops that'll automatically stop. If you put your finger in there, you'll still get cut, but hopefully you won't lose your finger. So this is a pretty nice, large contractor, cabinet maker style table saw with a pretty big off table and an out feed table there. Here we have some band saws, primarily used for cutting curves in material. These are 1412 bandsaws, these two Laguna bandsaws right here. This is the blade guard. Make sure you get trained properly on all of these tools before you ever use them. Again, this video is just about identification. Over here is a chop saw, also known as a sliding miter saw. It's sliding because when this is unlocked here, the whole tool can travel to get wider capacity. Changing this angle here is a miter, then changing that angle in the back is a bevel, and then changing both the miter and bevel together, it's called a compound. This is a really old saw here. This is a radial arm saw, traditionally pretty dangerous. So this is instructor use only. Radial arm saw. Over here, this is a small mortising machine. It's basically a drill press to cut square holes. So it has a chisel and then a drill bit on the inside of that to remove material, and then these things kind of press down to give you a square hole for cutting mortises. Over here is a drill press for drilling holes. The drill press advantage over a handheld drill is it'll be perpendicular in both planes, adjustable table height. These are scroll saws for cutting really tight radiuses, tight curves, really fine material, can't be very thick. Two different styles of scroll saws. Over here are wood lathes. You put a piece of wood between the centers over here, and then you turn it and then engage the tool. Anything that's round, table legs, bowls, anything like that is made on a wood lathe. These are kind of considered medium-sized wood lathes, versus this right here is a tabletop lathe. This is a router table. It's really just a handheld router underneath, mounted, and then the cutter coming up. You could get edge details with the router. You can also do a lot of different things like cut dados and rabbets with routers and their fences. So that's a router table. After you're all done doing all your cutting and sanding, then is assembly and putting parts together. This right here is a pocket hole jig. This is a nice tool. It just has a little drill bit in there. It clamps, drills a hole at an angle, and then you're able to screw boards together. So this is a pocket hole jig for fastening boards together. And then on the digital fabrication side, this is a CNC router run by these computers over here. This is actually the controller for it, and then the computer that drives it. And it's really just a handheld router there that moves around on this gantry system to cut whatever you want. So it's a really cool tool. Takes a fair bit of knowledge to start using one of these. In addition to that CNC router, here's a larger one. This one accepts a 4-foot by 8-foot piece of wood, which is kind of the standard size of plywood and sheet goods. So there's a computer that runs it, and this is also a CNC router. Lastly, for digital fabrication, we have a laser engraver or a laser cutter, and that could cut wood out like that, or it could engrave on the top of it. And I think that's it for the stationary power tools in this high school wood shop. Safety has to be number one for everything. This is not an instructional video, it's just how to identify the stationary power tools in a wood shop.